Hello, I'm Ashley Belden of Move to Thrive LLC. Welcome to my Hip Strength Challenge. These exercises were designed to build the deep muscles of your hips for improved posture and stability. For best results, focus on breathing and alignment throughout. This exercise builds the hamstrings and gives the abs a little bit of a break for a moment. So remember the alignment cues. Feet close together, narrower than the hips are wide. Your big toe balls pressing firmly into the mat. Okay, as you do this, you're going to keep your weight on your feet as much as possible throughout the bridge. So take a breath in to prepare. Your shoulders need to settle into the mat and your elbows need to tuck under. As you exhale, you're going to zip up your core and elevate your pelvis, reaching your hips just a little more on top of your feet so you feel the work in the backs of your legs. Stay here, please, for 6 breath cycles. Breathing in as you widen your ribs, breathing out as you zip your core. Keep catching yourself. Are your big toe balls still pressing down? Is your pelvis still forward? And finally, notice if your knees are hurting at all. If so, just lower your hips a little bit more. Good, and now you can come down on the next exhale, softening the ribs, lowering the lower back, and finally your pelvis is the last thing to lower. Taking a deep breath in, you're going to stay there and prepare to do it again. It's easier the second time. Zipping your core, pressing your feet down, and exhaling to come up if possible. Now, for this one, to make it harder, instead of just holding, you have the option of exhaling and balancing on one foot. Inhaling to lower the foot. Make sure the big toe ball presses down and switch sides. Exhale, zip your core and balance. Good, and lower. Keep going, 2 more times. Make sure your shoulders are on the mat throughout. And make sure that your pelvis is as stable as possible when you transfer to one leg. Very good. 1 more on each side. Zipping your core each time, feeling your shoulder blades connect to the mat so your chest remains open. Very good. Last one. Once both feet are down, feel the balls of the feet press. Take a breath in and widen your back. And as you exhale, come down onto your ribs first, then your low back. And finally your pelvis, elongating your spine and breathing in as deep as you can. We're going to be doing inner thigh hold. So what you need to do is turn to lie on your side with your head on your arm as if you're going to sleep, minus the sleeping. Your bottom leg is going to be straight on the ground, your bottom one. Your top foot is going to come forward. And this is difficult, but it presses firmly into the mat in front of your hip. There. Now, this bottom leg, it's going to take work to get there, but you're going to work on straightening it out so that it's in line with your whole spine. Your hip, your shoulder, your ear are all lined up with this bottom ankle. And this top foot is pressing down with your hips stacked and your shoulders stacked. Okay? From here, you're going to hold this leg off the ground for 20 breath cycles. Breathing into your back and breathing out, zipping up your core. Go ahead and count your breaths. Keep catching yourself. If your head is starting to rear forward, bring it back more. Notice if your top hip is leaning back. Many of you are going to do that at first. Try to keep your top hip leaning forward so that what you'll feel is both legs, the inner thighs, start to tighten even more the more forward you keep that top hip. And yes, it's supposed to feel difficult. It looks easy, but it's really not. Make sure you're flexing this foot as if you're standing on that bottom leg. And last breath. And then you can go ahead and bend this knee, straighten this leg. They're going to trade places. Make sure this bottom knee stays forward. It's going to want to drift down. Keep it forward. Make sure your hips remain completely stacked. That's hard to do. Easier said than done if your hips are tight. This leg is now going to lift. And it's not going to lift very high. You're going to focus on keeping your hip rolled forward and keeping the leg reaching as long as possible in the line of your spine with your shoulder and your ear. From here, you're going to be breathing in as your leg arcs back and up a little ways, breathing out as it comes back into the line of your spine. Again, you're going to do 20 breaths here. As you continue to move back and up on the in-breath, reverse the motion on the out-breath. As you do this, notice if your ribs and waist are sinking into the mat and gather them up off the mat. So you're resting on your arm and your bottom thigh. Also, notice if your pelvis is moving with your leg, and if so, it means you're not zipping your core enough. So you need to zip your core more and think of knitting your ribs and your hips closer to one another like this. Finally, as you finish, you should be feeling a burn now where your thigh meets your butt in the back of your leg. And one more. And now you can go ahead and lower that leg and just take a momentary rest. Breathing into your back. Okay, the next exercise is called infinity signs. What your leg is going to do is start in the exact same position as before, but instead of doing a little arc back, you'll be doing a full infinity sign, drawing it with your foot on the wall beneath your foot. Go ahead. Keeping your hips forward. Only 10 of these is plenty. Your hip will be burning like mad in the back if you're doing this correctly. Make sure your ribs and hips are knitted together in the front, that your waist is still lifted and your pelvis is not moving. You should hate me by now if you're doing this correctly. Good job. And now you can go ahead and rest your leg on your other leg. We're going to switch to the other side. So just flip to your next side. So the bottom leg is straight in line with your spine. The bottom leg, it's hard to get that right. The top foot is in front of you and it's pressing into the floor. Your knee is just slightly up on this side. Your hips are stacked. That top hip needs to lean forward. That's going to wake up your core in and of itself. Your bottom leg now lifts off and you flex your foot. We're going to stay here for 20 breath cycles. Make sure you count so you do the same number on both sides. Zipping your core with each exhale. As you continue to breathe, check in on your alignment. Is your head still back? Are your hips still stacked, one on top of the other? And for this one, your ribs do not need to be off the ground. They can rest down to the mat. Because what we're trying to do is maximize the raise of the bottom leg upward. Remembering to knit the ribs and hips together so you get a full abdominal engagement also is really important. A couple more breath cycles. You're doing great. And then you can go ahead and come down as you exhale. We're going to be switching sides. The bottom knee comes forward. Straighten the top leg all the way out. I like to think of this as a flamingo bird lying on its side. Keep your hip forward. As you do this, the hip stays forward, the leg needs to think of reaching back so that it lines up with your hip, your shoulder, and your ear. Make sure your ribs and waist are lifted and your ribs and hips are knitted together. Now you're going to be breathing in as you arc back and up, breathing out as you return to the start position. Again, 20 times. Make sure you count. Now notice, is there any auxiliary movement in your pelvis? If your pelvis is undulating, it means that your core isn't quite doing its job. So keep your hip forward more in that case. And make sure the burn is going into the muscles where your leg meets your butt. Right here. It should start feeling very intense. And as you do that, keep thinking about your whole body. So see if you can think about still lining up your ear with your shoulder, with your pelvis, even as the burn gets more intense. And then you can bend that knee and take a little breather before we do the infinity. Take a deep breath into your back. Power to you for going through this, because actually the burn is usually very intense for people. The tighter your hips, the more it burns. So next you're going to straighten your leg again. And we're going to pretend that there's a canvas under your foot, and you're going to be drawing an infinity sign on the canvas. Rolling your thigh in the socket 10 times, one breath cycle per infinity sign. Keep counting, or you'll really hate me if you do more than 10. This should burn right where your thigh meets your butt. Think of using the back panel of your pants, that part of your leg. Good job. You may bend your knee. Deep breath in. So this we call all fours facing up, because that's what it is. It's an all fours position, but you're looking up. Your fingers need to be pointing to the sides of the room, so they'll be out like that. That helps open your shoulders. You're going to be zipping your core. Notice if your feet are kind of close to your hands, walk them out just a little bit, and you'll hate me just a little bit more for that. It makes it harder. Zipping your core, you're going to take a breath in, and as you breathe out, extend one leg long. Good. And lower the foot, and we're going to do the other side, zipping, reaching, 6 breath cycles. Drawing the navel in with each exhale. It's very good to think about pushing the pushing foot, not the lifting one. It will help give you strength to carry on. Switching, and this side again. One more time on each side. Zipping the core. The arms are actively pressing down into the ground, so your triceps are charging up in the backs of your arms. Nice. 6, remember. Legs straight as possible. Lowering the foot with control, and other side. Everybody, you should be feeling your triceps, your abs, your glutes, your hamstring in this one. And you should be cursing me by now. You can lower your foot. After your 6-1, go ahead and sit yourself down. Beautiful work. Feet together, knees apart, in an upright seated position. You can go ahead and hold on to your ankles right here. And just see if you can bring your lower back up and forward into the space between your legs. Very good. And breathe deep into your chest. 3 breath cycles. And then you can go ahead and extend your legs out in front of you, sitting up tall.
Now, roll back down onto your back and fold your knees into your chest for foot prayer.
From here, we're going to lift our feet up to the ceiling. You can place your hands underneath your hips as needed, underneath your pelvis. Some of you, it's easy to hold your legs up like this. You can just rest your arms in an I surrender position over your head. Okay, otherwise though, that helps relieve the lower back. So your feet are going to be up in the sky with the soles of your feet reaching for the ceiling, the inner edges of your feet pressing into each other. You'll notice that'll make your inner thighs wake up and your zipper zip if you're pressing hard enough. As you continue to press, do a circular motion in one direction. Good. Nice. Again, 1 breath cycle per circle. Nice. We're going to be doing 10 circles. Now, as you do this, notice if your feet stop squeezing. I shouldn't be able to separate them from each other if I try. You want to feel your inner thighs and your lower abs. Then switching directions. Good. For 10, 3, 4, ribs wide on your back with each in-breath. Good. And go ahead and hold on to the fronts of your ankles for a moment with your hands like this, with your knees wide apart, legs open, and just give yourself a very passive release where you bring one foot closer to your pelvis, roll the other one a little away, and vice versa. This is a groin release that really helps take tension off of your lower back after you've been doing a lot of strenuous hip and ab work. Good job. And then from there, go ahead and bring your knees back together. You're going to reach your feet to the sky again, extend them up. Feel free to put your hands back under your hips if that helps relieve your back. You're going to open your legs wide apart, take a deep breath in, spiral them out in their sockets. Zip your core and bring them back together. Do a crisscross twice as you exhale. Inhale, wide stretch. Exhale, zip your core. Reach them together and crisscross twice. Again, inhale, wide stretch, turning your legs out. Exhale, zip your core. Pull the legs back up. Crisscross twice. And final wide stretch, deep breath in. And as you exhale, bring your legs up. Bring your knees to your chest. Hold on to them. Hold tight. Lift your shoulders to your ears. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, you can now lower your feet to the ground. One at a time is usually safest for your back. And then extend your legs all the way out. And here you get to just relax your shoulders, rest your hands alongside your body. It's nice to do palms up for this. And this is called the body rock. It's a really good check-in to make sure you're not holding unnecessary tension in your neck and shoulders. So all you're going to do is keep your heels pressed into the ground and flex and point your ankles to create a rocking motion of your body. It should feel kind of passive, like if you've ever been bounced on someone's knee when you were a kid. You're bouncing yourself here with your ankle joint, just flexing and pointing it to create an ease of movement up through your pelvis, your shoulders, and even your head will start to do this if you're really relaxed in your neck muscles. A couple more times. Make sure your breathing is really gentle here too. It's not a special Pilates breath anymore. Good, and with that, you may now come to stillness and just take a deep breath in and sense the weight of your body sinking into the floor.